This is how Kevin O'Leary turned scooping ice cream into selling the company that he built through his own hard work and dedication for $3.8 billion. While Mr. Wonderful now looks like everything that you'd imagine when you think of a typical rich guy, this wasn't always the case. The story of how he got to where he is now is actually pretty relatable for those of us interested in business and success. And if you're looking to go down a similar entrepreneurial path or pursue personal freedom like Kevin decided for himself, there's a few important lessons that you can take away from Kevin's story and apply it to your own life. Kevin's journey towards becoming an entrepreneur and an investor started in high school, when he learned a harsh first lesson while working at the local mall. Kevin was after what a lot of young men are after at this point in their lives, and no, it wasn't money yet. It was girls. This particular girl that Kevin was after worked at the local mall, so Kevin decided to get a job at the ice cream store directly across the hallway. He was thinking that maybe he could use this job to get to know her a little better and potentially ask her on a date. So as Kevin's first day was finishing up and he was thinking about going home for the night, the store owner came up to him with one last task. Out front of the store, they had some gorgeous Spanish tiles, where they also handed out the ice cream samples. The problem was that kids would throw gum all over these beautiful tiles, leaving gross black spots all over the ground. The owner went up to Kevin and said, "You can't leave until you scrape all the gum off the floor." Now, Kevin was completely surprised by her order. He knew that the girl that he liked was right across the hallway, and there was no way that he was going to be caught on his hands and knees scraping gum off the floor in an ice cream uniform. So Kevin refused to do it. He told her, "I'm a scooper, not a scraper," and she fired him on the spot. Kevin was shocked that he got fired. He rode his bike home crying the whole way back. He just couldn't believe that somebody could have that much control over him. At that point, he decided that he would never work for somebody else again. Kevin's short stint as an ice cream scooper made him realize that while being an employee has a lot of great benefits like security, consistency, and stability, that he would never be happy giving somebody else that much power over his life. He knew what he wanted in life was personal freedom, to do and live how he wanted to. So Kevin realized that he had to become an entrepreneur and eventually start his own business. As Mr. Wonderful started to get ready for college, he started to consider what he actually wanted to do with his life. He had two big passions: photography, which he actually still does today, and music. When talking to his stepdad, he let him know what he was considering. He wanted to become either a photographer or a rock star. But the problem with both of these industries is the outcome for this type of work is very binary. You either are going to make a ton of money or you just barely scrape by. And most of those who even attempt these career paths end up with the latter option and never really make much for themselves. Kevin's stepfather had seen his photography and his music skills, and he wasn't exactly impressed. He told Kevin that he would starve to death by trying to make it in these career fields. He thought Kevin had a long way to go before he could ever be competitive and earn a living doing this type of work. So Kevin did decide to go to college after all, and after bouncing around between a few different majors, he graduated with an environmental and psychology degree, but he struggled to find work. So following his stepfather's suggestion again, he eventually found himself enrolled in business school. But Kevin didn't have to graduate first to find his first opportunity to make money off of his education. His photography skills had drifted a little towards cinematography after he took some night classes, but cinematography, like photography, is also a very tough industry to make money in. But Kevin saw a rare opportunity. When he joined the business program, he asked the dean if he could make a first-person film about the experience of getting a business degree at this college, which was the University of West Ontario. He could provide an inside and personal experience showing what it was like to get a business degree from a student actively enrolled in the program, and this would be a compelling and powerful recruiting asset for the school. The dean seemed interested in the idea, but Kevin told him that this would be a lot of work, and it would require him to hire people to take care of different aspects of the film. For example, he needed a camera crew, somebody to take care of sound, and somebody to manage his lighting. Kevin asked for $50,000 for the project, and surprisingly, even with this hefty price tag, the dean didn't shoot this idea down. He told Kevin that he would discuss the project with some of his colleagues. And when he came back to Kevin, he said that there was a lot of interest, but they were only going to take the deal for $30,000. Kevin immediately agreed, but he still couldn't help upping the ante for himself one more time. He said that this would be highly time consuming, so he wanted the film to count towards his degree, because a higher quality film meant a more powerful recruiting tool. He told the dean that they could give him a bad grade if the film was done poorly. So the dean allowed it. The film ended up providing a unique and first-person perspective that no outside film crew could recreate on their own. Kevin's personal perspective and experience was the only way to get this done. And when it was all put together, the film became a fantastic recruiting tool, and Kevin ended up scoring towards the top of his class for his hard work. But what Kevin did here and why this works is he created value. Businesses are really about solving problems. If you can solve somebody else's problem, then you might have a great idea. Schools need to recruit new students every year. We all see how competitive college has become, not only for the students applying, but for the schools trying to attract the best talents that they can. Kevin realized that he could utilize his cinematography skills along with his personal experience as a student to provide the school and prospective students with a unique perspective of what life would be like if they chose to attend the University of West Ontario. But none of this would have happened if Kevin hadn't realized that he could provide massive value to the school and help them with their consistent challenge of recruiting the best students. After Kevin graduated, he turned his experience filming his business degree journey into a successful TV production company called Special Events Television. But his next major business lesson came from his work with Nabisco Foods. Kevin became a brand manager for Nabisco Foods, and his first task was to figure out how to expand the flavors from 21 to 24 flavors over the next 90 days. But the problem was Kevin didn't know much about pet food, but what he did realize was that they had a marketing problem here. Kevin was told to come up with new flavors and to see what the cats liked, but this didn't really make sense to Kevin. It's not the cats that are doing the shopping, so why put all this effort into testing new flavors on cats? So he asked the brand manager, who is it that buys the cat food? Is this the owner or the cats? The brand manager could see the wheels turning in Kevin's head. He said, now you're thinking. The challenge was they need the cat to eat whatever was in the tin so the customer comes back. But they also need the food to look and smell good so the owner feels good about what they're feeding their cat. It turns out that cat food only actually comes in two types. There's seafood flavors, which are made from the scraps of Japanese tuna that no humans wanted to eat. And the meat flavors came from leftovers from the slaughterhouse that were ground up and compressed. Now, while it seemed like Nabisco had 21 entirely separate products on the shelf, it was actually only 2 products with some different variations of inexpensive fillers. It was what he learned from this lesson that would provide Kevin with the opportunity to sell his company for $3.8 billion. After his TV production company and work with Nabisco, Kevin founded a software company called Softkey. Kevin took what he learned at Nabisco and realized that he could actually apply it to software too. Home computers in the 90s had gone from about $3,000 to $1,000. And in today's dollars, and I can't believe I'm doing this for a time in my life that I actually completely remember, but that was the equivalent of going from about $5,500 to $1,800 in today's dollars. Now, Rita Rabbit, which was actually a game that I remember playing in first grade on my family's first home PC, was going for about $130. The game aimed to help kids with reading and math and improve test scores. But Kevin realized that there was actually a massive inefficiency in how these businesses were operating at the time. Education games like Rita Rabbit come down to 2 types. Reading and math, just like tuna and beef. Why don't they just standardize the game on 2 separate engines and then sprinkle in the other flavors or characters to make all of the different games? So the learning company started to buy other companies. They would cut down the acquired business to just a few developers, and then they gave them 2 separate game engines. They saved a massive amount of money and eventually heavily consolidated the entire industry. But new computer prices were falling, and there was pressure to continue dropping prices. QVC approached Kevin with an offer to bundle some of the learning company's games with a new computer. They told Kevin that it would only work if they dropped the prices to attach the game to the bundle. So Kevin hesitantly agreed to test it out. The test was a complete success. They completely blew out their projected numbers with way more sales than expected. It got so much attention that Walmart reached out to them and asked to meet with Kevin. This meeting would change how software would be sold going forward. Now, we probably recognize that Kevin is no dummy. Walmart was and is still one of the biggest retailers on the planet. And this was a massive opportunity for him, but he knew he was going to have to give them a good deal to make this work. Kevin told Walmart that he would give them a great deal. He would sell Rita Rabbit at the lowest price that they've ever sold it, at just $89.99. Walmart didn't exactly seem too moved by this offer. They told him that if they were going to sell a computer for $800 to $900, that they thought Rita Rabbit should go for about $29.99. Kevin said,
"I'm out."
This was less than half of what his lowest ever price was. There was no way that he could take this deal. Walmart told Kevin that he was right. They wouldn't sell it at this price. Walmart was only going to sell it for $13.99. Kevin fired back that the whole industry doesn't work off these margins. There's no way for them to sell Rita Rabbit for $13.99. But then Walmart dropped a bomb on Kevin. Walmart told Kevin that they thought they could sell 12 million packages, and if he didn't take the deal, there would be plenty of other software companies out there who would. Now, this wasn't an easy decision. They already had investment partners and products on the shelf across the globe, and all of these products would have to take a massive price cut. But what Kevin realized was, with a giant retailer like Walmart, they would easily make this money back on volume. So Kevin decided that the risk was worth it, and he took the deal. They produced so many CDs that it took nearly every CD-ROM producer in the world to meet the demand. What Kevin realized was how important it was to recognize the changing environment and pivot his business strategy, or he would be left behind. There are plenty of businesses that we've seen fail because they failed to adapt to change. BlackBerry refused to pivot from its physical keyboard until it was too late, and the iPhone had taken over.
iPhone. They all have these keyboards that are there whether you need them or not. And they all have these control buttons that are fixed in plastic.
Blockbuster failed to adapt to competition from streaming. Or Vine, the original TikTok, which died off after Instagram, the bigger and better platform, added videos. And that might be the most controversial statement of this entire video, but I was on both of the time, I swear it's true. Prices were rapidly falling across the computer industry, and it just made sense that software companies would have to follow suit. Because Kevin took this deal with Walmart and sold millions of copies of their software, the Learning Company controlled a massive and overwhelming market share. Kevin took what he learned in the cat food industry and used it to streamline the learning software industry. Mr. Wonderful was able to use his cat food edge to acquire a huge market share, and then when the deal of a lifetime was sitting in front of him, he wasn't afraid to pivot the entire business model from high margin to high volume sales. The ability to scale, along with the massive market share, is what attracted Mattel, one of the largest toy companies in the world, in 1998 to acquire the Learning Company for $3.8 billion. So Kevin O'Leary, or Mr. Wonderful, learned early on that he had a strong passion for personal freedom, that for him it wasn't about getting rich, it was about having full control over your life and doing the work and the things that you want to do. He realized that businesses are about providing value. Look for problems that you can solve and keep an eye out for problems that nobody else is solving, or very few have the expertise or opportunity to do so. And the ability to recognize when you have to pivot. While things might be working now, it's important to recognize that that doesn't mean that things will work in the future. And the business environment can change very quickly. If you don't position yourself to be able to maneuver and you're too slow to take action when you have to, you are doomed to fail. So that's the video, and as always, thanks for watching.